Hi, BookTube. This is a tag video, so now you know I'm busy. Yeah, something to do with Christmas, almost certainly. This tag was created by Reney at Beyond Books, and it was to increase awareness of the number of books we own. How many we have that to date we still have not read. Good to keep an awareness of that. And I was tagged by Gareth at Books, Songs, and Other Magic, and also by Reney at Beyond Books. So here we go. Question one. Question one asks me, how many physical books do you presently own? Yeah. And it says, give an estimate if you are unsure. Yeah, it's going to happen. How many of these are unread? Wow. Okay. It's never occurred to me to do a proper stock take of books. Maybe I've always thought it was a hopeless cause. But there's also the problem that I share the book space with the person who watches television, but I don't see the books as theirs and mine. We share the books. We can read each other's books. It's not a problem. We usually choose not to, but that's beside the point. We could. We're totally free to. So I consider all the books to be mine. I did a little estimate, right? I counted, let's see, I did a sort of estimate of how many books fit on one of the shelves, and I've got two different sizes of bookcase. So I worked it out. I think I have 360 books on the bookcases that are narrower and 300 books on the bookcases that are larger. That's because the bookcases that are larger hold some other things that are not books as well. And so in total, that comes to about 738, but that's assuming that all my books sit nicely on the shelf. Whereas like you see, I have all these little stacks. So I rounded it up to 750. And if that's true, that's a good number, because I know that around about the turn of the new millennium, we had over 1,100 books here. And I did feel that was too much. So we have done some culling and unhauling over the years. So I don't think 750 is too bad. Question 2 wants to know, do I have ebooks and how many do I have of those? And can I tell how many are unread? I didn't answer in the physical book question how many are unread. I just thought, please, let's not go there. That will take me. I wasn't interested, because I thought, you know what? If they're still on these bookcases, they are either unread or I have read them, but I consider them significant enough to hang on to them. Those are the only two categories. There isn't, as yet, I have read and I hate this book, or I don't think it's worth keeping, because I've probably got rid of it if that's the case. But we're on ebooks. Ebooks, yes, I've got 245 ebooks on my Kindle app on my laptop. Now, of those, I know, because Kindle will tell me, I don't have to do any of this miserable counting. That is the advantage of ebooks. Statistics are easy to get hold of. I've read 42 of that 245. I am less worried, as it happens. If I ever did a read what I own challenge again, I think I'd be less concerned about the purchase of ebooks. I would limit or restrict fully my purchase of physical books. And that's because I'm more concerned about space. I have limited space for books. So I'm more concerned about that, not to bring in so many books that I overwhelm my space. But ebooks, irrelevant. Space is irrelevant. So, and at any rate, when I buy ebooks, to be absolutely truthful, it's rare for me to pay full price for them. I am usually hunting for a bargain. I keep a wish list on Amazon, more than one wish list, actually. How many wish lists? Have I got 3, 4? I have a lot of wish lists. They're long, and what I do is I occasionally open them up, because you can do this. You can sort a wish list by in price order from cheapest to most expensive. And by doing this regularly, what you can spot is when one of your favorite books, a book that you would like to read, is suddenly marked down in price, because Amazon will do that very randomly. They won't tell you either. You'll just have to discover it. But I have made discoveries that way, where a book that I've had on my wish list, I really would like to read, suddenly comes up and it's marked down to $1.99 or 99 pence. And I think, there you go. There's your opportunity. Bring that book in. And I don't worry about that. I think if I were to do a Read What You Own challenge again, I would not include ebooks, because I'm not interested in restricting the number of books I buy just because of the number. I'm interested in space, really, because it's physical books and space that is my worry. Yes, I do want to control spending a little bit, but I'm not the kind of person that I believe is overspending on books. Now, I might have said that in the past, but it seems to have calmed down now. I don't know. All you younger booktubers, maybe you grow out of it. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. So question 3, oddly enough, is asking me if I've ever done a Read What I Own challenge. Yes. In November 2023, I went for a year, and during that time, I bought only 4 books, and those were 4 books that I had allowed myself to buy. I had that rule as my Read What You Own rules, is that I could have 4 wildcard books that I could purchase, and that could be ebook or physical book. I was restricting myself completely because I wanted to know, could I do it? I didn't think I could do it. I thought, no, you'll break down. I'll give you these 4 books, but I just know you won't be able to stay within that limit. And yet, oddly, I did. It's really very, very weird. If I were younger, as I said, in the previous question, I think I'd have given up much earlier. The pull of buying books, it just was stronger, and I can't explain why. And it's not true anymore. And so I am wondering whether Read What You Own challenges they work best when the time is right. Does that sound strange? I'm wondering if that's not the case, because I see a lot of people starting them and then things kind of don't go to plan. And you can feel in some people there's just a need to keep taking in new books. And I remember having that need. I remember I was much more inclined to impulse buy rather large quantities of books. And that's calmed down. So maybe there's a time in your life when it's right. And you can say, okay, you know what? We're going to calm down now for a while and it's going to be fine. I like question 4. Question 4 says, have you ever purchased the same book twice or more? Wow. Without realizing it. What did you do with the extra copy or copies of the books? Okay, I have not done this. I feel quite sure. But the person who watches television has done it a couple of times. But then, you see, they focus more on genre reading. They love crime fiction. And, you've seen crime fiction, right? The cover graphics. Have I got one that's near here? Yeah, here's one. Just a second. I'm not going to be able to pull it out. Here's one. Like this one, McKinsey's The Cold, Cold Ground. They'll always be the same. They'll always be like a dark cover, and then high contrast font for the titles, and then it'll be big and it'll fill most of the cover up, and the same with the spine, great big letters. That's, that seems to be standard crime novel cover artwork. Now, the problem with that is it's hard to get a distinct image in your mind. If you're browsing bookshelves and you're looking for a new book, you can spot another book that's got a dark cover and high contrast, and you honestly won't be able to remember that you bought it. So it has happened to the person who's watched television. They've started to read the book and realized about 50 or 100 pages in, hang on, I know how this book ends. That means I must have read it before. And then they go look up, because they do keep a record of the books that they've read, but they don't feel like consulting that, and they don't take it with them when they're shopping. Neither do I. So, I can't criticize. But yeah, so he's done that a couple of times. And I don't know. The only thing that I've ever done is recently I discovered a couple of books on my shelves, and I was convinced I'd never read them. And yet I went back to my reading records and found that, yes, I had read both of them. And it freaked me out a little bit, because I literally had nothing. I think for every book that I've read, there's usually just this residual memory. It may not be very detailed, but it's like a 1-sentence summary at the worst. I've never had a situation where I literally can remember nothing. And so I'm thinking, wow, are the books that forgettable? Or do I need to reread them because I didn't give those books the attention they deserved? I'm not sure. And question 5. Question 5 says, take 5 unread books from your shelf, or choose 5 from your e-library, and talk briefly about why you purchased them. Was it price? Were you collecting them? Part of a series? Beloved author, etc. And then it says, which of the 5 would you commit to reading within 90 days? What about the others? It says, would you consider unhauling the unread books? And if so, where? Okay, that's a lot of questions. First of all, not going to choose from my e-library. I think I still want to keep reading physical books. I'm putting a little bit more of an emphasis on read your physical books, and then if you want to move them on, please move them on, because it makes space for new physical books, or new to me anyway. Okay, so 5 books. So I have the 5. They're down here. Well, one is in my hand because I'm going to show you it first. And it is, this one might surprise you actually. This is The Man Who Sold the Moon by Robert Heinlein. Yeah, I believe I bought this. It could have been The Person Who Watches Television. I don't know. This feels like we probably picked up this little pan paper book at one of the secondhand bookshops in Hay during those years, which I talked about earlier, where impulse buying, we were good at it or bad at it, depending upon how you view impulse buying of books. So we have this. I don't think The Person Who Watches Television has read it. I definitely have not read it, but I do need to read some science fiction. I just feel like it's good because I love mixing things up and I love to be, broad, in the field across which I read fiction. So I was thinking, I know this is getting ahead of the questions, but I feel like this is one that I will commit to reading in 2026. I don't like the idea of 90 days, guys, because you know how many books I can read a month. Not that many. But if I say here, if I declare here, this is going to get read in 2026, I mean, I'm not asking for anything too onerous. I believe I can do that. Okay, book number 2 is The Lovers by Marguerite Duras. And this was a purchase. I know exactly what this was. The Person Who Watches Television and I, we attended a face-to-face book group for a number of years. It was here locally where we live. And I hope no one from the book group is watching because they might be a bit brokenhearted if I say this, but I had a tough time with the book group. And that was because really most book groups in the real world are social groups where the excuse for getting together is supposedly a book. And some people read the book now and again. But really the expectation in a lot of book groups, I think, is that most people won't, or they might read some. And at any rate, the reason you're getting together is just to enjoy each other's company, have some food or a drink or both. And I think when I joined the book group, I was hungry for people to talk about books with. I really, what I was looking for was BookTube, and I hadn't discovered BookTube yet. So instead, I went to this face-to-face book group. I brought The Person Who Watches Television with me, and I would read every book that was ever assigned during the time I attended. I read. Person Who Watches Television had a tougher time because he really likes the genre that he reads, and he doesn't really wander from that too often. He does read history and nonfiction. Yeah, he likes that. But in terms of fiction, he's very fixed in what he likes. And so I stopped attending the book group when I started the Open University. Because the Open University was extremely satisfying, for a bookish person to be taking an English lit degree. I was like, okay, I'm so excited. And it was great. And so The Person Who Watches Television stayed on and attended for a little bit longer. And this book was one of the group's books. And I remember he didn't finish it, even though you can see it's very thin. How many pages is it? It's 116 pages. And if I show you the typeface, it's quite large typeface with lots of white space all around. And yet, in spite that, he really couldn't get on with it at all. And I've always been curious about this book since, of course, I was out of the club by this time, so I wasn't paying attention. I was doing my assigned reading for university. And I've always been curious. I have wanted to read this little book. I could commit to this one in 2026. I won't die because honestly, it's just not very long. So I think I'll add this one to the Robert Heinlein. And book three I'm going to put up now. It is Miss Wyoming by Douglas Coupland. Now, I know I bought this one. This would have been secondhand. I can tell that I bought it. It's already a bit watermarked and damp. Just, you know me, I just love this beat up old, oh my goodness, where has that book been? But I bought it because I read Generation X by Douglas Coupland and loved it. I'm apparently a member of Generation X, or I'm on the borderline between baby boomer, Generation X. I don't know if I feel like I'm Generation X or not. I really need to study what on earth does that even mean. But never mind, I love the novel. I thought the novel was cool because it was written as a series of emails, and I'd never seen a novel written like that. So, of course, it seems so new and zingy. But I've enjoyed Douglas Coupland's writing. I also read Girlfriend in a Coma. That was a very moving novel. So I'm pretty sure that as soon as I saw this, I thought, oh, look, here's another weird title by Douglas Coupland. We just have to have that. But sadly, I've never read it, and I'm pretty sure I've had it at least a decade. And book 4 is called The Year of the Hare by Arto Pasilia. And this must be my purchase, because this does not look like a person who watches television book, does it? It definitely looks like me. It looks like me because it looks like something I would buy as a winning titles thing, because the Year of the Hare, I immediately thought, oh, and that cover graphic, it's silly, so of course I'm going to buy it. And it's another skinny little book, again, that I've had for absolutely ages. It's a Finnish writer, and that's all I know. I should have put this in the winning titles list. I really should have. Well, never mind. There's still time. Again, it's another skinny book. So I'm thinking, is it really a big ask to do it sometime in 2026? I don't think so. I think I could work that one in, definitely. And finally, book number 5. Now, this is an embarrassment, this book, because I bought this book new. I feel quite certain of it. It was in 2007. This book had come out. It was getting a lot of reviews because I was reading blogs about books by that time. I'd found people that liked to write about books, and they were just saying fantastic things about this. And I knew it had a murder mystery element in it. So of course I bought it new. I brought it home. Ta-da. It's R.J. Ellery's A Quiet Belief in Angels. I mentioned to the person who watches television, oh, apparently it's got a bit of a crime story in it. So he picked it up. He's read it. He enjoyed it. Thought it was pretty good. Have I read it yet? No. No, I haven't. No good reason for that at all. So it sits, waiting. I won't necessarily commit to reading it. I think the 3 that I've got, that's fine, because I've already got a pretty good TBR list that I'll be starting on in 2026. I don't want to get too carried away with committing to reading other books, but those ones were those 2 that I committed to. Or was it 3? No, it was 3, wasn't it? 3. They're skinny. I'm sure I can manage them without any problem. And by the way, in answer to the question, would I unhaul unread books? I'm very reluctant to unhaul a book that I've not tried to read at all. It bothers me. And I don't know. I suppose it's because it's like, you invested in this, Heather. What? Are you saying that your judgment is that bad? Because what I've found when I've picked up those books that have sat on my shelf for a quarter of a century, where I can't remember why I bought them or anything about them. I just know, oh, interesting title. That must have been it. And I'm reading them now and thinking, these are really good books. Yeah, you've chosen pretty good books. There was only one where I really thought, not so much. But that was the worst it got. So I don't know. I really am reluctant, because I think, no, when I choose a book, I feel like I'm choosing something that's going to be satisfying in one way or another. So I tend not to unhaul books, but read books, yes. In fact, just the other day, I moved a whole box of books and took them to a charity which receives donations of anything. It doesn't really matter what shape they're in, which is good, because you know what shape most of my books are in. They're not great. I wouldn't sell them online because there's nothing to recommend them. Okay, and question 6 says, update us in 90 days time about these books, these books that you've committed to read. 90 days isn't enough time for me. What I will say here, and I will add to my TBR list, which I'm preparing, and you'll hear a little bit more about between Christmas and New Year. I'm going to do a bit of a wrap-up video, show you my new spreadsheet. I mean, because I love doing a spreadsheet. But that will include the 3 books, which I will now name here, and that is The Year of the Hare by Arto Pasilina. I've got to learn how to pronounce that name before I review that. The Lovers by Marguerite Duras, and The Man Who Sold the Moon by Robert Heinlein. We'll add them because they're 3 slender little books, and it's just good. That's more books that I own being read, and that's the important thing. And that just leaves that happy section at the end where you tag others. Well, I tag the usual suspects. Joseph Francis Burton, because you may want to think about how you're going to answer this. I don't know. You've done some very creative things with your last tag videos. Makes me feel a bit like, wow, all I do is just sit down in a chair, switch on my phone, and start yabbering. Every once in a while, switch off the camera because I need a drink of coffee. You can't see my cup of coffee. It's down here. Actually, can I mention that? Back when I was doing another tag about what unpopular opinion do you have about BookTube, and what I forgot to talk about is, and guys, forgive me, because, you can do what you want on camera and nobody needs to worry about what I think. But I really have a tough time when people eat or drink on camera. The noises, I have a tough time with the sound of other people eating or drinking. The sound of a drink being slurped and swallowed. I actually sometimes have to mute that when I'm watching a video. I'll watch the rest of the video, okay? Nobody think that I tune out because like, oh, if you're going to drink a cup of tea, I can't bear it. No, I cope. I'm all right. But yeah, I have a real sensitivity to that. I don't find those sounds pleasant. And so, yeah, that's just me. I thought I'd add that. That's not a tag question. Thought I'd just add one on. Anyway, I was tagging others. I was tagging Joseph Francis Burton, who, as far as I know, hasn't slurped a drink on camera, but probably will now. I bet you will. I bet you will, because you'll just think, well, how about this then? I thought, yeah, okay, do what you want, Joe. There's no point in me trying to prohibit anything you do on camera, because I'm sure it will just happen all the more frequently. You go ahead, do you. And Marion, if you're out there and watching and you fancy this, you think, yeah, these questions are speaking to me, have a go. Meg at Books Off the Beaten Path, I know you're out there. I know you're out there because we watch each other. It's not in a spying kind of way. It's a friendly kind of way. And we make sure that each other has lots of good tag material. So Meg, I mean, this sounds like something that I think you could get into. Do you think? I mean, I'd like to hear your answers to the questions. So, and there will be other people listed as well, but these are the three that, you know, I'm beginning to think that I'm forming a crew without trying. I don't know. I can't really, because it makes it sound as though you all kowtow to me and my suggestions, and I doubt this is what is happening very much. Anyway, if you fancy doing these questions, I'd love to hear the responses. I guess that's what it is in the end. Everybody else who's getting a little tired of me rabbiting on here, if you fancy this, you don't even have to be tagged by me, because here is me saying for all the world to witness that if you like these questions and you want to do a version, or you have 5 books sitting on your shelves and you think, oh, I want to commit on camera to reading them because that would help me, well, do it. Because, I mean, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Meanwhile, everybody, I hope your reading's going well. And I'll see you again in a few days' time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.